Terrific. Well, welcome everybody. It's my pleasure to welcome you today to Unlocking Success, the Power of Bragging. My name is Vivienne Artz. I'm the Vice Chair of Picasso and founder of the PICCASO Awards. And I'm absolutely thrilled to have as our very special keynote and guest today, Lisa Bragg, the author of Bragging Rights. Hi, Lisa.
Hi, nice to see you. Nice to be here.
Thank you so much. Now, I'm going to just introduce you to Picasso first, and then do a little bit of housekeeping, which is about how you can get your questions in there, because we've got lots of questions for Lisa. And then I'm going to introduce Lisa, tell you a little bit about her background, and then let her at it, and she can talk to us about bragging rights. So, Picasso, interesting name, and what does it stand for? Well, it's not spelt the same way as the painter. It's Picasso, privacy, information security, culture, change, and awareness societal organization. And PICCASO Canada is a not-for-profit that has been set up to recognize and celebrate the talent, achievements, and innovation of organizations and individuals, whether they're public or private sector, whether they're big or medium-sized or small, across Canada. Those people, individuals, and organizations and teams that are making a difference in terms of privacy, in terms of data, and in terms of information security. Too often, you just don't get the recognition, the celebration that you absolutely deserve. And in this space in particular, particularly with privacy professionals, they're often seen as a hurdle. It's often seen as a boring subject. It's often seen as a challenge. But actually, what the privacy sector does is incredible. And what we have been doing for so many years has been unrecognized and uncelebrated. And why? Well, part of it is actually down to us. It's time to raise our profile and shout about what we've been doing in terms of protecting rights, in terms of safeguarding data, in terms of helping organizations to be compliant and supporting innovation. We can support in the digital economy, in this new AI-led world, how we can responsibly use data to safeguard people, but also to generate those opportunities that are there for us to achieve. So the PICCASO Awards take place on the 11th of June in Toronto. The nominations are opening, and we'll have details shortly about how you can actually apply. And basically today, I wanted to introduce you to Lisa, because Lisa is going to be our MC at the awards. And actually, the message that she's got, I think, is going to help you during that nomination process. So let me tell you a little bit about Lisa. So Lisa, apart from being a best-selling author for Bragging Rights, actually started her career in journalism. And she did all sorts of things in journalism and then founded MediaFace, which has pioneered what we now know as content for our digital world. When she was the CEO, the company twice received the Growth 500 Award for the fastest growing businesses in Canada. And Lisa now writes amazing books, inspires people, and advises organizations on actually how they can stand out, but also fit in at the same time. So I'll introduce you to Lisa, or I'll hand over to Lisa in a second, but if you've got questions, pop them in the chat and I'll get to them when we get to Q&A time. But over to you, Lisa. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you. Welcome again.
Thank you. You know, we all need a Vivienne to come along everywhere with us, right? Wouldn't it be so much easier if somebody introduced us, if somebody else nominated us, if somebody else did all that work for us? So much easier. But the reality is, Vivienne had to get that bio, that information from somewhere. And so often what people don't know is when someone reads that out on stage, someone else supplied it. And it's usually the person that's winning or being introduced, or they had to approve it. So when you hear that CEO and then they're like, afterwards, they're like, oh, that was so lovely. I'm so surprised that you brought up all those things. It's usually quite orchestrated. Sorry to blow that bubble that people have, but the reality is that people are putting themselves first. They're advocating for themselves. They're putting their companies out there. And that's what I did with MediaFace when we won 2 of the Growth 500 Awards. And we were on the list, and only one, I think there was only 7 women-led companies on that list. And so it was really important for me to nominate my company, to be on that list, and to show other people. to show other women, to show other people in content, to show people that you can also achieve success. And I think that's really important, that when you consider nominating yourself, that you're not just doing it for yourself, you're actually doing it for other people. And I know that sounds funny because we're so taught to, one of my words, be humble, have humility, all those things that carry along with us. And that's a little bit of a challenge for us. So I'm just going to explain how this is going to run. So as Vivienne mentioned, I'm going to do a little bit of the why. Why are we like this? That we sometimes don't want to nominate ourselves, or we feel icky or feel awkward, or whether we're concerned about it. To do a little bit of the why. And then we're going to also break down some of the how. So you'll have some practical ideas, and Vivienne's going to help me with that. And we're going to dig into it. So you'll be able to nominate yourself with a lot more ease for this exciting brand new award for us. So, but let's talk about the social conundrum of nominating yourself for an award. And I have some slides. Let me just pull those slides up here as we do the big share. There we go. So the social conundrum starts because of some of these things. Put your head down, do good work, and eventually someone will notice you. Yeah, that's one of the big ones. Just wait, just put your head down. Somebody will eventually notice you. Or the next one, your work should speak for itself. How often are you told that your work should speak for itself? So if you were that great, your work would speak for itself. You don't need to do anything because your work will speak for you. Not true at all. Your work doesn't speak for you. The world is far too busy. And I will say that again and again as I talk to you about why you should nominate yourself and why we need to also think about bragging and self-promotion. So your work doesn't speak for itself. You need to speak for your work. This is one of the big ones. When I did the international research for Bragging Rights, my book, it was often people would say, well, who do you think you are? And it's not that existential, like think about yourself and how remarkable you are. It was that, well, who do you think you are? That negativity that a lot of those aunties would say, or those people around us. And it's like, oh, what will they say if you do that kind of thing? And so that's some negativity that we have with so many of us being told and taught to be more humble or be hidden gems. And I think that's a challenge for a lot of people in this industry. It's a hidden industry. You're hidden gems in that industry. So it's really, even more challenging to articulate your strengths and your value to the world. But we need to do that. So who do you think you are? And I'm going to go through a few more myths. This one here, be so good, they can't ignore you. This is from comedian Steve Martin. And he says this all the time. And he's funny. Grew up watching some of his things, but be so good they can't ignore you. That's exhausting for many of us. We're trying to be so good that they can't ignore us. They didn't notice me. Guess I'm not that good. Gotta work harder, gonna work harder. And that leads to the burnout factor. So be so good they can't ignore you. That's something I want us to start to put aside, that whole thing, because you're already good. I know that. I know that about anyone who's watching this. You're already good. So don't worry about this. Be so good they can't ignore you. You're already there. And they're ignoring you, not because they actually want to ignore you. They're ignoring you because, well, they have a bunch of emergencies or awards or challenges or whatever it is that their life has in front of them, that they're busy doing their life. And so that's why we need to have some self-advocacy. Here's another myth, the myth of wait your turn. Wait your turn. Eventually it will come to you. I had a client, a friend, Mary, and I talk about her in the book. And she was told, and she was in insurance, she was told, oh, well, wait your turn. Eventually you'll win. Do all these things and you'll get there. Wait your turn, wait your turn. Well, she waited. She's been in the industry for a long time now. She has a great book of business, her employees love her. She's well respected. And in the past, it would be wait your turn. It'd be wait your turn because, there's a pecking order to these things. But the reality in this day and age, that's not the same thing. It doesn't happen that way anymore. And so when some young person, a young upstart, as he came along and he won the award, and she was surprised about that, because why did she have to wait her turn where he came along and the judges thought, oh, what a breath of fresh air. And so it's not about waiting your turn anymore. You need to use that whole thing of throwing your hat in the ring and giving it a try now. Waiting doesn't help anyone. You need to bet on yourself today, because she didn't win the award. And the person came, he went and accepted his award on flip-flops, in flip-flops. Like, he didn't care. He was so casual about it, but he had already been working to get that award, doing all the things, but she was waiting to be told that it was finally her time. So I don't want that for you. Today is the day. Seize that opportunity to win an award, or at least nominate, because nominations are really important. So yes, we do want to win. That's the secret. Yes, we want to win, but being nominated for something is right away something that you can put on social media, on your LinkedIn. It's something that you can say, oh, I was nominated and I am there and I am present. And I think that's the start of things. It's the start of also letting people see you. And it's also the start of mentoring other people who can then see you doing awesome things as we go. This is one thing we're also told a lot too. Be successful, but don't talk about success. Like, what a conundrum. Be successful, but don't talk about your success. The thing is, though, success begets more success. So that's why we need to talk about our successes to get the opportunities we already deserve and desire. So, you've already done the hard work of all of this. You really have. You've already done the hard work. So you're already remarkable. You're already doing great things in the space. So now it's time to put it out on the stage and let people nominate you and see you for all the things that you do. So we're going to nominate ourselves in this, but that's another thing. Always feel free on any awards to nominate other people. I know you're busy, but it's always a good thing to put someone's name forward. But if they're not doing it for you, you need to put your name forward yourself. So my last name is Bragg. And so I have done a lot of research in bragging and self-promotion. When I considered writing the book, I wasn't just going to let it be a story of a Canadian white woman. I wanted to make sure that it wasn't just N1, that it had data behind it, that it had qualitative and quantitative, that I did the literature review for it. And so one of the simple things was actually really understanding what the other research hadn't done, is defining and understanding what brag meant and means. So brag used to mean proud, spirited, and brave. This is about 1305. Proud, spirited, brave. It meant shine and shimmer, and it wasn't about being boastful. And so right away today, we think about that icky, it's icky. That's what I kept hearing back in my work about the importance of bragging is known, but we feel so awkward about it. So bragging is to talk about one's success with pride, but here's the reframe. Pride also means justified self-love. That's the pat on the back that we all deserve for whatever it is that we're doing. It's justified self-love. So I'm going to just stop for a second. And I want you to actually give yourself that pat on the back. Think of that one thing that you didn't get a compliment for. What was that one thing? What was the one job that you did that was awesome last week and no one else noticed? Give yourself a pat on the back right now. Think about it and pat yourself. Okay, did you do it? Because do it. Because we need to brag to ourselves first. And that's where we need to talk to ourselves about our successes and realize again that everyone's busy doing their own lives. So bragging to yourself first is critical. And I want you to start a brag book. So start to brag to yourself. And a brag book can also be a smile file. It can be the nice notes, whatever it is that you want to call it. But brag file is pretty good. And it's all the things that people say, hey, good job, kudos, or those nominations, or all the little things that you've done along the way, because it's often moments and not just the milestones. We wait for something big. We wait for our performance review, or we wait for an award to be an award opportunity, but it's really the moments along the way that really can make the difference. And we're showing those moments so people can see our work. Instead of the mediocre people always winning, it's us. We need to show our work along the way. So it's not just those great big moments. So that's what we think of bragging, though, that it's that, we think it's this word, the self-aggrandizement. I think the challenge is because this is the $5 word. It's one of those words, it's a mouthful. Back in journalism days, we'd call it a $5 word. It'd probably be a $50 word now because it's multisyllabic, right? It's too much to say. And so that's where we get confused with bragging with self-aggrandizement. And self-aggrandizement is that puffery, that ickiness, that I'm better than you, only one person can win. Where bragging really is that here's my successes, here's how I'm meant to serve the world. Because when I articulate my successes, then people know how I am meant to serve. And that's what winning an award or nominating yourself for an award is about. It's showing the world how you're meant to serve and telling us about it. What is that? What have you done? What does it matter? And it does matter in so many different ways. As I've already mentioned, some of the ways it matters to your peers seeing you, it matters for your own self-growth. It matters to the industry to see who's the next leader coming along, or the leaders that have been unrecognized. We need to know who is that go-to person. It's really critical. So it's not self-aggrandizement. I really wish that we could change the dictionary and make it go back to what it originally meant was shine, shimmer, and bravery, because that's what this is about. Shining, shimmer, and being brave to put ourselves out there and let the world know how we are meant to serve. So I mentioned briefly, I conducted international research for the book, and I think that's really critical to know that it's not just, so what the research had been done before was based on American university cohorts. So these are people who are 20-year-olds, 21, 22-year-olds in the US. And well, I think it's important research. The reality is the world of work is so much more vast. And so conducting this international research and talking to people all over the world is interesting to see what people revealed and why we feel so challenged with talking about our successes. And so a lot of it is some of the things that I've already mentioned. We're given these things, put your head down, do good work, and eventually someone will notice you, or be so good that they can't ignore you. And we're taught to be hidden gems. And a lot of that comes from, we were part of the factory era. Well, first we were part of agricultural societies. And so then we didn't, everyone knew what our successes were. They knew, yes, Vivienne should definitely do this job because she's awesome at it. And please, no, do not have Lisa involved in that at all, because that's not going to work out. So we would already know our strengths and we would be just working towards them. And then we went into the factory era where a lot of us went willingly, or we were forced to go, but we were part of the cogs in the machine. Just put your head down, do good work, and eventually someone will notice you, or just don't be noticed. That was kind of part of it, because you just wanted a paycheck. And the hierarchy didn't allow for a lot of people to be seen and be heard. Because frankly, if the factory owner could simply make money off of your work, the piecemeal work, the whatever work you were doing, then they were happy. But nowadays, we're in a different era. We're in this knowledge economy, and we need to share our ideas with each other, or people don't see what we're doing behind the screens because they can't see what we're doing. It's not tangible, or they only see and hear about you when things go wrong. And that's not the way, because there's so many great things that are going on behind the scenes. So we need to let people know about that and not just be hidden gems, letting other people shine. So I do believe, and I'm so excited that this award's going on and starting to happen, because I do believe that we need to have more awards out there to help people to shine, shimmer, and show that they're brave. So, a lot of people feel too, well, why would I, put myself out there for an award? Like, why would I nominate myself? That feels so, again, that word icky, which was one of the number one words identified in my research, icky. And the reality is, well, you might have applied for a job one day. Same thing as this. Applying for an award is the same thing. It's part of your social currency. It's part of the whole fabric of being in the world of work today. You might have applied for a scholarship when you were in university. I certainly did. And so that's the same thing. It's how we look at the world of work and say, hey, here's how I meant to serve. So we can't wrap our brains around this whole, well, I have to be, have this huge level of humility and think that other people are going to win and, they're going to bring me along on their coattails. That's just not the way it works. And so we need to make sure that we're being seen and being heard. And this is a really important quote here. And if you want, take a picture of this, because this is really about how we start to signal to the world our credibility, no matter what age and stage. This is what the research shows. And we need to start doing this absolutely today. So I'll let you read it. So what the science is telling us is that it's important to signal to others what makes you a credible, knowledgeable authority before you make your influence attempt. An influence attempt means anything. It means applying for telling somebody that you need to change whatever it is. We need to get to the next level. It's about talking about your next ideas. It's about telling people how you should get that next level job, or that they should trust you in the job that you currently are in, or trust your recommendations. So we need to be signaling these things early on and frequently so that other people believe in us, because the reality is you can't sell a secret. And so many of us think that, oh, I'll just keep this to myself and I won't talk about my successes. But then when we need a new job, or we want a promotion, or we want something to change in the world, people haven't invested in us because we haven't talked about those things. And so you can't sell a secret. And it's critical for us to start talking about our successes along the way. Again, moments over milestones, really critical thing, because we need to share our social proof. And social proof, that's allowing people to see us in the light. It's that we've established our credibility for people. And winning an award is one of those things that helps establish a credibility a lot faster. So it's so funny how we just finished Oscar season and the American awards, and we watched them, and it just establishes them so much more. They can ask for more money because of those awards, but they lobby hard. They apply. It's the lobbying behind winning any of those actor awards is incredible. It takes a team a year to get people all in the right places. And that's why they have such a long list of people to thank. Now, I don't expect when you are winning that you're going to have a long list of people. Maybe you do. But the point is that we need to start doing it ourselves and show that social proof, the credibility that we have in our industry. And again, nationally, globally, it's how people get picked. Before I wrote the book, when I was working heavily in MediaFace, so it was one of Canada's first content companies, I would go in and tape the subject matter experts of organizations and put them on video for the first time. It sounds like it's so long ago, but it was just 2007 when I started the business. And so quickly I would hear from the executives who'd be in charge of the program, and they'd say, Lisa, I see what's going on with the subject matter experts we're putting online as we share our knowledge for knowledge mobilization, so getting our ideas out into the world. But how can I do that for myself? They would ask me that all the time. And so that's part of why I wrote the book, is to give people the insider knowledge of that. But it was also that people would say, well, how does this happen? Because I can see that person's now getting on more panels, or they're getting a new opportunity, they're getting promotions. And so we would see that. And back in my journalism days too, I would often go up to people and say, hey, I think you're the expert. Will you go on video with me? And so many times people would say, oh, no, not me. Go down the hall to Bob or Steve. And so often I'd want that different person. So when media is often a pack kind of thing, they want to go together. So they would go one way, they would zig, I would zag, just to find an interesting new character. And again, I would see them get on new panels. I would see them get new opportunities. They'd win an award. They'd get on media. And so all of these opportunities, the point is, these opportunities beget more opportunities. And so when you win awards, then you'll win more and more things, and more opportunities will come to you. So I'm sure I'm convincing you enough of winning these awards and how important it is. But it's also about our social currency. So when we go for that next award, we're collecting all of these things along the way. It's all of the sum of the interactions. It's the sum of the things that we've done. That's why it's so important to have that in those little items along the way that really count. Because when we make a mistake, and sometimes we do, when we have social currency, people will know, oh, well, that was just one time, or that happened, but look at all the other things this person has done and achieved. And we know the good in their heart and their mind. And so that's what this is about, is the social currency that matters. And winning an award, or nominating yourself for an award, and being amongst peers, that's really a part of building up your social currency. It's part of building up your own mental social currency too, to say, you know what, I can go for this award. I'm just going to bet on myself. I'm going to bet on myself to go ahead and try to win this award. I always find when I go for awards too, it's so satisfying. It's frustrating when you're doing the bit of it. And I'm sure that's like, why is she saying that? But it is. It's challenging to figure out what to write. And we'll talk a bit about that. But the challenge is once you've gone through it and you've just opened yourself up to say, hey, this is how I'm remarkable. This is the thing that I've done that I believe is significant. That piece, when you read it back, a week later, 2 weeks later, a month later, a year later, 5 years later, and you think, wow, that was really important. It's that hindsight that really does, when you look back, it's like, oh, it does make me feel really good. So the exercise of going through something like this and nominating yourself is so rewarding. A little frustrating in the beginning because how do you start? But once you're in it, the reward is so much bigger. It's almost, Vivienne, I hope you don't mind me saying, but it's almost bigger than the award itself, because it's that whole transformation as you grow into that next level of yourself that it really does matter. And it's such a small thing, but it's not. It's like going through and digging into yourself, having that time for self-reflection. That's a piece that a lot of us don't give ourselves. And that's what the joy is of actually nominating yourself and going through the process. So if you can start with that joy mindset, that I'm going to grow through doing this opportunity, it's so good for you to start to validate yourself. So, I was talking about Oscars and the season, and this America Ferrera, she's in my book, and not for the Barbie things that she's been saying lately, which I was like, I like, if I could reopen my book and insert that, it was just so amazing what she was saying. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, I'm sure you can go on social media and see all the memes of her character in Barbie talking about, how we really need to be awesome and we are awesome, but let the world know how awesome we are, not hide ourselves. But this is what she said when she was giving a TED talk, and it was identity is a superpower, not an obstacle. And as a Latina woman, Latinas hadn't been recognized for so many of their acting accolades or all the things that they'd done. And so she wrote this. And I think this is really important about the awards and people, well, I don't need that validation, that external validation of getting an award. And it's not about that external validation, as she reminds us. It's not because awards prove our worth, she says, but because we see thriving teaches us how to see ourselves, how to think about our own value, and how to dream our futures. I love that. It actually is giving me goosebumps just saying it to you now. I just think it's so important to think about, because it's not that external validation, which is very nice to get that external pat on the back, but it's that internal piece to really assess, know, and consider our value today, past, present, future, all the continuum, and really thinking about that. And also in this context, she's also thinking about how she knows that she inspired Malala. So she had that Ugly Betty show. If you haven't seen it, go look at it on YouTube. It's funny, but it stands somewhat the test of time. But she inspired some of the most interesting people in the world because they were able to get the DVDs of her work and then go on and do great things for peace in our world. And so this is really an interesting quote, is that we're also modeling things for the people of today and for the people of the future. And so that's why I really think it's critical for us to be seen and be heard, and to let the awards nomination committee at least know what we're thinking, doing, and all the awesomeness that we're bringing. So we're going to move into a little bit more of the nuts and bolts of this. And I'm just going to give you this one point before I invite more questions to come into the Q&A, and I invite Vivienne to come back. People say to me, well, Lisa, how do I brag and how do I self-promote? And let me backtrack. So bragging is talking about your successes with pride, and pride also means justified self-love. And self-promotion is the way that we send out all that success into the world. So self-promotion is nominating yourself an award. It is social media. It is writing a newsletter. It is applying for that job. It's talking to that one manager twice removed. It's talking to that person in the elevator, not an elevator pitch though. That's a conversation for another day, but don't do an elevator pitch. But it's about narrow casting instead of broadcasting. It doesn't have to be to everyone. It can be to one person. And that's what self-promotion is. It's really, how do I articulate my value and send it out into the world, all the things that I should be bragging about. That's what self-promotion is. And it doesn't have to be for everyone. It can just be for that one person. And I get into detail. That's why the book is here, 200 and something pages of really how to do it and to do it well. But the number one thing is that this context matters. It's why, you know what, you can own a yacht, and this is beyond most of us, but you can own a yacht. And in the context of the yacht yard, you're talking to other people who own the yacht. It's okay. It doesn't seem like they're being boastful or arrogant or anything. They're talking about their yachts. So it's just a matter of the context that you're in. And in our world, it's the context that you're in and the context that you're going to be applying for this award. The context is we want you to be a winner and talk about your accomplishments. And so that's where it's the area to do so, the arena. It's where sometimes our families don't understand what we're talking about because context matters. And so when you tell them you've won this award, they might not get it. They might be proud of you, but they're not going to really get the significance or anything behind it. And that's where context matters for so many of it. And context also matters that we let people understand who's on the nominating committee, who's on the awards committee, that they understand what we're talking about. And so while it might seem small, in the context of your organization, it might have been a huge thing. And so that's where you need to give us that context of why this is a winning moment for you and break it down a little bit more. So context is really something to consider whenever you're out there articulating your brags, talking to your peers about all your successes. That's something to consider. And then also giving people the color behind it. What is it that brought you to that opportunity? And so one way I always teach how to brag and self-promote, but bragging is really, I won this award because, and whatever that because unveils. So the because, I did these 3 things. I won this award because whatever it is. And so the word because really unlocks so many things. And where this came from, it's a magic word, which you might remember those L'Oreal commercials. They still have them. But in the 1970s, when they had the first commercial for it, it was a woman walking to screen and she was talking about her hair products. And L'Oreal back then was a more expensive hair product for dyeing your hair. And so they were like, well, how do we really get women to buy into this product? So for the first time, a woman actually spoke to camera. So usually, especially about beauty products, it would be a man talking about her looks. So she was talking to camera and then the camera was dollying backwards. So it was moving backwards as she was walking into it. So it was all about power. And it was really because I'm worth it. And that's what she said. I'm going to do this because I'm worth it. And so it's the because word, I'm worth it, that allowed the product to be really embraced. And we still know that slogan nowadays. They still use that tagline, because we're worth it, because I'm worth it. It keeps coming up again and again. And that's allowing us to articulate our value because I'm worth it. So that because word really does allow it to soften instead of us saying, well, here's what I'm really proud of, which would be great, but so many of us don't feel comfortable with it. So the because word softens it and allows more and more people to accept our awesomeness and our successes and see us stand in our strengths. So if you ever need one word when you're talking about your successes, the word because is the magic word for you. So Vivienne, I'm just going to pop up one of your screens because I think this is really important for all of us to get ahead and get it. Like June 11th is the awards. I'm going to be there. Vivienne's going to be there. It's going to be a really exciting event. I'm already thinking about what I'm going to wear. So that's a big thing. But the event is going to be June 11th. You can scan that code right there. It'll bring you to all the awards information and to start thinking about your nomination and getting that going. So Vivienne, did you want to we'll come back to this now. We'll come back to this in a bit. But Vivienne, did you want to talk about this a little bit for us now?
Super. Thank you so much, Lisa. There's so much I want to talk to you about as well. So much resonated there for me. And I remember the advertisement for L'Oreal, because you're worth it. And it was transformational, utterly transformational. It was like, yes, of course I'm worth it. And I think that's so much of what we want to express in this area, in this sector, and in this area of professionalism, that we know we do a great job, but the message isn't out there. And that's why we have to articulate. We have to speak for our work, which is one of the things that you said. And I just thought, oh, that's a really lovely articulation. I'm going to speak for my work. And also remember, we are worth it, because my goodness, we are the guardians of data, whether it's data security or data use or data rights. We are those guardians. And it's so important, particularly in our digital world. So here we have the awards page. I've put in the chat the actual link to the website. where you can go and have a look. But if you like, let's spend just a couple of minutes on the awards themselves, and what exactly we have here. So we've got 15 categories of awards. There is a lot of opportunity, and it covers a whole range of areas. So we've got something for those who are new in their career in terms of the rising star. We've got something for the public sector because the way in which they approach data and privacy is quite specific. We've definitely got the outstanding lawyers because you know you are, you're absolutely amazing. We've also got the engineers. They're in the background and they don't often get the recognition, but they're the ones who actually make it work. They're the technical people who get this done. We've got something for the third sector and the not-for-profit sector because these people do really, really good work in spaces where others perhaps are not necessarily as present. Health, huge issue in Canada, the Health Privacy Leadership Award, and a thought leader and academia. Sometimes we forget about those people who are actually pushing the boundaries, querying whether what we should and shouldn't do, asking the big questions, and also proposing ways forward. You know, maybe we should be doing it this way rather than that. And of course, in Canada, we're still evolving the legislation. We've got the Partnership Award. We love that one. The partnership, we're not doing this alone, we're doing this with everyone else. And we've got the Impactful Privacy Product and Service Award. There are so many innovations out there for organizations and teams that are creating something new, something different, that are actually improving things. This isn't about just the doing, it's about how do we do it better as well. We've got something there for those who've been doing this for a very long time and are top of their game, and that's the Achievement Award. And then, because I love this one, this is always my favorite, is the Team Award. Now, the Team of the Year, because I love working in teams. And actually, it's super lovely to be able to recognize everyone else that you're working with as well. Obviously, the Privacy Officer, where would we be without our Privacy Officer? The Privacy Program Award, who's put something together that's absolutely unique? The Indigenous Leadership Award, something unique and special specifically for Canada, and the Privacy Innovation Award. Again, a novel use of technology, data, or a process to address a new or long-standing issue. So those are 15 different opportunities. And don't think about just one. We're multi-talented and we do lots of interesting things. So I would encourage you to think about, actually, is there more than one category? Is there something which I would be best suited for, but perhaps I could also nominate my team or my colleague or somebody I hugely admire and help them along this journey of speaking for their work, speaking for our work, betting on ourselves and throwing our hat in the ring. So I just love all your keywords there. I've written them all down. I just think that's absolutely super. And I also love what you also said, Lisa, about you can't sell a secret. So we need to get it out there. This isn't a secret. This is increasingly the day to day. And what's fascinating about data is that it impacts our personal lives, our professional lives, and our society. So what we're doing is impactful across the board, and it's really important to share that. But if I could take a moment just to go through the nominations, just to let everyone, or to remind everyone, that this is free to enter, totally independently judged. This is not some pay-to-play scenario. And actually, the nomination process is relatively quick and easy. You start off with a little, well, this is the usual thing, you know, who you are and what you need to fill in. And then we ask you to tell us a little bit about your team or your organization. And you don't have to go on forever. It's capped at 500 words. So there is a finite amount of space you've got, which is super, super helpful. You do not need to write a novel. So 500 words, you know, provide us the context for your nomination. And then in 200 words, we need an executive summary, because if you're shortlisted, that's what we're going to say about you. It's your words. It's your words speaking for your work and speaking for yourself. So do yourself justice and tell us what you've been doing in this space. And then you've got 750 words to actually explain why your initiative, team, or yourself should be winning the actual nomination. So it's really accessible, and it shouldn't take you very long. And if you want to nominate someone else, just give them the form and ask them to give you a hand, and they can fill in some of those details as well. I'm going to just stop there for a minute because, Lisa, I'm sure there's something you probably want to add to that nomination process.
Oh, I think it's such a great, you merely simplified it. It's so when you look at it, don't look at it as so daunting. I think it's like a great nomination process for people to apply to because it's tight. So we don't have to make up a whole bunch of things for it. And I think it's really doing that self-reflection piece is critical. And then allowing yourself to say, these are the things I should win. I think one of the big things though is, while we're talking about self-nomination on this and self-advocacy, shining a light on other people, that's another big part of what my book is about, is that when we shine a light on what our colleagues are doing or, peers, it just really does come back to say, hey, I want to nominate you for this award because they have to give you some of the information. So they'll be so flattered that you've done, even started that or thought value of them. And then it's like, oh, I should apply. And then I'm going to nominate another friend. And so it can become one of those things where goodness spreads that way. And then also when you're seen with your peers, I don't feel that scarcity mindset when I allow myself to say, hey, someone else is doing a good job. There's abundance in this. Yes, only one person can win in each category, but the nomination feeling, that's an abundance feeling. And then you look good when you also nominate other people. So I do challenge you to get out there and nominate someone else. First of all, embrace that you should nominate yourself, but also nominate someone else to win. I think it's such a critical point. It's about how do we help other people to shine and also lift other people up along the way.
Superb, thank you. One of the things that you said really resonated with me, which is around the context. And the context does matter. I think often we can feel, particularly in this space where, let's face it, there haven't been awards, just not at all. And we often perhaps feel out of our depth or out of water when we talk about what we do in the data and the privacy and the information security space. But actually, here, you're in water. You're actually in context and with your community. And you know what? Everyone is super interested. Everyone is super interested to know, what have you been doing? How have you been doing it? How have you innovated? And I think this is a real opportunity to role model, to share your expertise and experience. So think about it in those terms. You're actually really doing everyone a great service by showcasing and sharing what you've been doing to help your organization and your team to do a better job, to improve things, just even to achieve compliance, which is no easy thing in itself. And so I think it's a really important piece around the context because this is your community, these are your friends. And actually, I think it's super important that you can share what you've been doing through either nominating yourself, your team, or somebody you know, or your organization for one of these awards because you're growing the community, you're sharing the knowledge, and you're empowering others. It's like, wow, great. We do something similar. That's a great benchmark. Or I'd never thought about that. Gosh, maybe we should try innovating in that space.
All of that is so valuable. Absolutely. All of those tips. And people don't know what they don't know, right? So that's where when you think something's of value, don't hold back on it. Allow it to be there because you might be doing something you think you're in your own silo, but by allowing, articulating your values with it, then someone else can say, oh, well, we should be tapping into that and understanding that a little bit more. They are the go-to resource for it. And as employers, as your companies and organizations, they love that too. So when you win an award, it's the halo effect. Oh, they're awesome at that company or that organization. They're doing great things. Who are they? What are they doing over there? We should maybe work with them, or we should engage them in something, or we should have them to our event. So that's where it's really how many more people see what you're doing, how awesome you are when you put it out there to the world. And especially when it hasn't been, the spotlight hasn't been put on this industry. It definitely needs to happen. It's so critical that we all, even people who are outside of the industry, understand it even more so because it's really important for all of us what you're doing here. And so that's where, attracting some more media, attracting more things, it's just really good for the industry for people to understand why compliance or all the other aspects of it is really important for the world we live in today, and especially the world we're going to live in tomorrow.
Thank you. That's really super. I'm going to just focus on our judges for a moment.
Yeah.
So we are going to have quite a few judges. They're all independent and they are thought leaders and recognized experts. So many of them will be familiar. Some of them may be new. But I also think if you have a look at the website and you have a look at what the judges have written in their bios, that's a really good example of speaking for your work. So we have Chantal Bernier, who has confirmed as one of our judges. She was the previous lead for the Office of the Privacy Commissioner of Canada. So she led federally for Canada in relation to privacy. And she was the voice and the face, both nationally and internationally. Amazing, absolutely amazing work that she did. And she is now co-chair of Denton's Global Privacy and Cybersecurity Group, as well as a member of the Canadian Privacy and Cybersecurity Practice Group. And she has a number of other roles as well. So, all she's saying is the facts, but she's saying it fully and properly. And it's super, super impressive. And it's when people talk about what they're doing and they're factual and they're straightforward, it shines. And you know what? It's an absolute inspiration. The other judge who we have on our website at the moment, and there are more to follow as soon as I get their photos, I'll pop them up, but is Elizabeth Denham. And I knew Elizabeth when she was the UK Privacy Information Commissioner, so also a regulator. And she was the Information Commissioner during a very interesting time as the UK left the EU, lots and lots of things going on. So she was navigating the ship through all sorts of interesting waters. But interestingly, she started off as an archivist. Super interesting. So a love of data, but from a different perspective. And post her role as the UK Information Commissioner, she's taken on a consultancy role with Baker and McKenzie, and she also works with the Information Accountability Foundation. She does a lot of work in the privacy space. She actually received a CBE for her work in public privacy, which is super, super terrific as well. So we've got some really excellent judges who are independent, they have world experience, and they have practical experience of privacy programs, privacy initiatives, and the individuals. So the challenges, but also what can and what should be done. So this is your opportunity to show what you can do and what you have done to some of these incredibly illustrious people.
And that I would add, absolutely, as you add more judges or you get more things on the website with it, one super tip is to go and find them on LinkedIn and start following them, because these are the leaders in the industry. They're doing awesome things. And so just to be aware of what else is happening in the industry is following the people and seeing what they're up to. It's a critical piece to do. So go find them on LinkedIn. And that's the only social media that I ever tell people is to get on LinkedIn, because that's one piece where we can quickly go and see your credibility, because that's so often we want to stack everything with so much credibility, but LinkedIn is one of those places that when we're going to events or we're passing people, we can say, oh, this is who they are and some of their credibility. So fill out that LinkedIn profile. That's the only social media piece that I say to people all the time is do that one piece for sure.
Super. Thank you so very much. We've got a few questions, and one of them is can global teams be nominated? Some team members in Canada. So the answer is that actually it has to have a Canadian nexus. So yes, you may be a global team, but it'll need to be that team and that activity that's actually focused in Canada. So do have a look. The rules are very short and very clear, and I hope that you will be able to put your nomination in soon. But the focus for the Canadian PICCASO Awards is very much on Canada. And of course, Canada has a long and rich history in relation to privacy. Canada is the home of privacy by design, which was a concept that has now permeated almost all legislation globally, that understanding that you need to build in privacy into all that you do, whether it's a process or a technology or a function, which is super important. So thank you very much. And if you'd like to send any more questions through, please do. So, but one of the things I wanted to pick up with you rather, was you were talking about a Bragg book, and it suddenly triggered in my mind the word stock take. I don't know why. Maybe that was my summer job when I was a kid. But One of the things that I think is so useful, and we all have to do when we're working in organizations, is we have that end of year appraisal. And if you start thinking about your end of year appraisal the week before when you have to write your self appraisal, oh my goodness, your mind goes blank and you've got to go through all the emails and your calendar and think, oh my gosh, what did I do? What did I do? I've got to make this look good because my promotion, my pay rise, everything, depends on it. And actually, if you are keeping a regular little log of what you've done and what you've achieved, so that you know what you've done and can feel good about it and know about it, actually for the end of the year, you've done it. You've done your stock take. You've done it as you go along. You're recognizing and articulating and noting down all of those achievements throughout the year. And that's not bragging in the negative sense. That's bragging in the sense that youth talked about, which is shining, shimmering, and being brave. It's about being honest and it's about speaking for your work. I just love that phrase, speaking for your work.
Stock take, that's another one. So, you know what? So many people know these things and they just don't do them. But that's where it's a gift to your leadership. It's a gift to your future employer. It's a gift to yourself to be taking stock take, to be writing in your brag book, to be having your smile file, your nice notes. It's a gift to yourself. And that it's just because we forget again, the next person, they're already looking at the next goal, or they have their own personal agenda. They have their own lives that they're leading. And so we don't like, Vivienne, do you even remember what you wore on Saturday? Like, or last week? Like, we don't even remember some of the things, the big decisions of the day. I don't even know. Like, we just forget so quickly. And so that's why it's really important for us to say, oh, that's where when you go back and look at your high school yearbooks, and it's like, oh, here's all the things we did. I don't even remember any of those things at all. But when we keep an artifact, then we can go back and say, oh, look how far I've come. Or I remember that. I want to do more of that. And also you can see a red thread through your life that might point to that next opportunity, that next thing that you want, because you can look back and say, actually, I'm really good at this. I should be doing more of that. And so when we look back, when we take stock, it's really critical for our future successes. Your future self will really appreciate it. So Vivienne, I know we're getting close to time. I don't know if people have some questions, but I'm going to just jump into, do we have time for me to do my activity, a short one?
We do have time for an activity. Could I just get one little piece in there, which is just a top tip when you're filling in your nomination, whether for yourself or with someone else, is don't get lost in the words. Just put down the facts. We're not looking for long sentences and flowery language. We're just looking for facts, for data points, for evidence. If you want to do it in bullet points, that's absolutely fine. Because I know there's that limit of the number of words. So just use that efficiently and put it down as a fact. And that way you won't feel shy. You're just stating the obvious. So go for it. Lisa, yes, please, back over to you.
Yeah. And you know what, the obvious too, it can be something that's just you, right? It's not always something I think people get so caught up in the words and we get caught up on the comparatitis too. We want to compare ourselves to other people. This is about your journey. And the fact that this is new too, I think is a really special time to go forward. I always tell people to go first. And I have a great quote. I don't know if we'll get to it. It's about being first and putting yourself out there. And that's where it's a great time to go first with this award for sure too. So let me pull this up on the screen. This one here, it's paused. There we go. So take a picture of this just in case. And we're still welcoming your questions. If you have any questions about bragging or about the nomination process as we fill out the last few minutes of this, if you have questions, pop them into the chat or the Q&A and we will get to them. But I wanted to go over this activity with you. Take a picture of it so that you have it. But what it's about is so often we don't realize what makes us remarkable. And so this is a great primer, a minds-on activity for your brain to start thinking about all of your accomplishments. And it's like, what's unusual about me? And so you're not going to use this in your application, but it's really about how to get yourself primed to think about yourself in that positive way, in that way that we don't take that self-reflection time. So what is it that's unusual about me? What surprises me? What impresses me? What are my achievements? What makes me fascinating? What accomplishments should I share? And so why we would want to do this activity is so often we don't do the self-reflection. We don't think about what makes us remarkable in the world. And so starting with something as simple as this, setting a timer, The timer then is the magic sauce to all of it. Set a timer for 5 minutes and respond to these questions. So it doesn't have to take a lot of time, but really the pressure of the time then makes diamonds and gold appear. So when we have that pressure, things will happen. And I want you to keep writing. I don't want you to stop and get concerned about it. It's a challenging exercise. It looks so super simple, but it's actually quite challenging to go through this I am remarkable, remarkable me exercise to get these ideas. So go for it and take a screen grab of it and try this exercise. It's one of the exercises in my book, and there's some stories around it about some other organizations doing this kind of work. But definitely do this remarkable me activity. Vivienne, there's a question for you there. I don't know if you want to go to that. That's a good question.
There you go. So do we need to take any company's approval of the written congratulation emails or nominations we had to share that information with you? So I think what you're asking is, do you need to get company approval to submit for nominations? Well, each company has its own process. So actually, if you're in a big company and you've got a communications team, when you're writing a nomination, I would certainly share it with them. And you may have a process that you need to go through for internal approvals. But generally, this is regarded as something hugely positive. So the experience we've had for the PICCASO Awards in the UK and Europe has been that companies are absolutely thrilled when teams and individuals and activities are being nominated for the awards. Obviously, what you're sharing is publicly available information, and it's the sort of thing that actually is great to share. I've seen transformational results as a result of teams and individuals being shortlisted and then winning the awards. Companies are absolutely delighted to have that profile and opportunity to showcase what good looks like, to showcase how well they're doing on something, and to showcase both individuals and teams and say, wow, you're doing a fantastic job. People have had promotions out of this already. It's been absolutely fantastic. That's not why we're doing it, but there's a lot that goes with it, and that's part of the halo effect that Lisa spoke about. So yes, you may just check, you may have a process that you need to go through, but the nomination process doesn't ask you anything particularly sensitive or difficult. So yep, I think you're good to go.
That, and if you want some gold stars, because so many of us, I'm sure, always love the gold stars, take this to your leadership and let them know about this event. So hopefully that they'll also want you to not just nominate, but also help you to get to the event to wherever you're coming from in the nation. But taking it to your leadership and saying, this is something that we really should go for, and let's get behind this. I think it's a really critical thing, because absolutely the halo effect, it's great on so many levels for team engagement, saying we should be nominated, we should be talking about our successes. It's good for the leadership to say, hey, here's our teams, they're doing awesome things. Hey, world, look at us. And so on so many levels, it's really important to do this work, the individual, the team, the company, the organization, and nationally too. You think of it as national pride as we show the world through these awards that we have all these great people doing great things in this area. So I think that's really, one of those things that we have to think beyond ourselves and say, hey, let's shine a light on each other as we go forward with this.
Super. And one of the things that we found is that organizations are very keen to support this initiative. They're not going to know unless you tell them. And when they find out, they find this is a fabulous opportunity to recognize and celebrate a team's achievements who otherwise may not be getting that profile internally. But also many organizations see this as an opportunity to invite their clients or customers to showcase a shortlisting or a nomination as well. And so it's an opportunity in many different ways to recognize and celebrate the good work that's being done. Because unless you tell about the good work, no one will know about the good work. And good work doesn't speak for itself. I think that was your message right at the very beginning. Somebody's got to say it and somebody's got to do it. And I think, for all of us, it's the responsible thing to do as a manager and as a leader. And it's the kind thing to do and the right thing to do as a colleague and as a friend. So I hope that you'll think about nominating yourself, nominating your team, nominating somebody you admire, so that they can be recognized and celebrated for all that they're doing, and showcasing, leading, inspiring others in this space. It's so important.
Oh, that was such a good summary. That was just exactly the way for us to start wrapping this up for sure. So, yeah, so many great things. And I'm looking forward to meeting all of you at the event. And find me on LinkedIn now and find everyone on who's involved with Picasso. Find us on LinkedIn and start to follow along as we get excited for the upcoming event. I'm going to just move to the next that it's on June 11th. We're going to be there and have a great time. Is it going to be a great party?
It's going to be a fantastic party. And we have Philippe Dufresne, the Federal Commissioner for Privacy, is going to be our keynote speaker. And Lisa, you're going to be there. You're going to be emceeing. This is going to be a fantastic party. We've got lots of lovely sponsors as well. So big shout out to TELUS, who's our founding sponsor, to Access Privacy by Osler, who's a platinum sponsor, and to PwC Canada, who is also a sponsor. We have a number of other sponsors coming through the pipeline, but thank you so much to these original founding sponsors for showing your support in relation to the Picasso Awards. So get nominating, and then also get out your dress, your impressive dress outfit, because we're looking to have a fabulous celebration of everybody across Canada, across all sectors of what you've been doing.
See you
Thanks
there.
for
I'm looking
joining
forward
today.
to it.
And Lisa, thank you.
Thank you. I can't wait to hear your brags. I'm cheering you on. Go for it.
Great. Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye then.